Say live.
Yeah, it's live now. I just ain't said nothing yet.
Oh,
What's up, world? It's your boy, Coach EV, aka EV the Geeker, and welcome to another edition of Talking Hoops in the Sip Live, the boys edition. Talking Hoops in the Sip Live, the boys edition. I am your host, and then I have my guy from Mississippi Hoop Report, Lavelle Shoes Johnson. What's up, buddy?
what up, peeps? What's going on? We back on now.
Yes, sir. We are back here. Hey, listen, let's just jump right in. But before we do, just want to mention our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by Tatum and Wade Law Firm, located 124 East and Meat Street, right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Tatum and Wade are real lawyers who get real results. I say if you want to get paid, you better go to Tatum and Wade. Listen, I'm telling you, Shoes, it's like we're going to get into the hoops talk, but something monumental happened today in our great state of Mississippi and in our city, Jackson, Mississippi. So we would be remiss if we did at least talk about what happened with primetime. Deion Sanders, head coach at Jackson State, found a way to get the number two overall commit and the number one defensive back in the country, a 5-star, to flip his commitment from Florida State, where he played, and come to 1400 Lynch Street in the hood of Jackson, Mississippi. I mean, talk to me about that. I mean, what's your initial thoughts? Rumor has it, let me just say this, rumor has it that he's getting an NIL deal for $1.5 million.
Yeah, that's the word out there. And I mean, it is monumental. It's a smaller school. You know, I'm a HBCU. Yeah, okay. It's a smaller school that's taking advantage of the new rules, the NLI rules, and a coach that has the resources to take advantage of those rules to the fullest. You know, it's that we all got to understand that that's the big elephant in the room. Deion's access to having NLI, NLI properties and NLI possibilities, and that was probably a big thing with this. But it's still to get a if you read what ESPN says, they've been doing rankings since 2006. This is the first time a 5-star and probably a 4-star also has signed with a FCS team, a lower one, and I still like the 1AA moniker.
Right. One, that's what they are, 1AA.
Yeah, they the 5 stars have all gone to at least 1A teams, and you probably can count on one hand the ones that didn't sign with a Power 5 school. You probably count on one hand, at least no more than two, the ones that didn't sign with a Power 5 school. So, this is monumental. Um, you know, I'm I'm lukewarm about it, being an all Knight fan and all Horn fan and all Knight. I'm lukewarm about it. I'm not extremely happy, but it is, but in the great scheme of things, it is a monumental thing that he's pulled off.
Well, let me ask you this, Shoes. A couple things, and again, we'll talk about the state here in hoops here shortly. But I want to just jump in on a couple things, and I'd love for all my live chatters to jump in. You have any questions, your thoughts on it, please feel free to let us know on our live chat. But here's the thing, Shoes. Don't you think right now that if you're a football player in the state of Mississippi per se, that is has an opportunity to play in the SWAC right now, with all you got Shador Sanders, freshman of the year, Deion Sanders, national coach of the year, first time he's ever a guy I think from the SWAC has ever won the Eddie Robinson Award. If he's not the first, it's the second. Shador Sanders wins the Jerry Rice Award, given to the top small college athlete as a freshman, National Freshman of the Year. I think about a kid named DJ Smith, who's a Greenville Christian. Right now, he's a phenomenal two-way player, basketball and football, but he's a big-time quarterback. Wouldn't you think guys like him and others would consider these SWAC schools to be a part of the hype? Because it's going to be tremendous hype. I mean, I want, like Jackson State games and all like that, they're not going to play. Let's face it now, Jackson State had two of the highest rated games football, even higher than Mississippi State and Ole Miss this year. So as far as the fan coverage and all the hype at the games and stuff, you're going to get that at Jackson State. No different than you would at Ole Miss. Now, obviously, me working at HBCU, let's not try to trick ourselves. This young man, the resources at the majority of the HBCUs is the main difference. But
big difference.
Wouldn't you agree that if there was ever a time to go to an HBCU, it would be right now?
Definitely. I think, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if it's as much as time to go to HBCU as the time to go to Jackson State. Dion has a great thing going over there. Hopefully the rest of us can feed off of it and build off of it. I mean, we've had a good program at Alcorn for the last for quite some time now. So yes, it's Grambling just hired Hugh Jackson, who was a former NFL coach over there. Prairie View came up this year and had a really good team. So there is a pizzazz going throughout the conference. With Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman coming over and growing the conference even more, and they are two teams that have great football heritages. That does place a big, a big opportunity, a big possibilities for the conference. So I would have to say yes. Looking at that, yes. I think Dion's stature and his bling that kind of stands out above the crowd of everybody else maybe, and that he's put himself in a situation to really do some monumental things. But yes, it would be right now. It's a good time for someone like that to go to one of the HBCUs as it is to go anywhere. It would be a great time for a DJ. To think about one of the predominantly black schools here in the state, or even some of those outside. I don't know if anybody's reached out to him. I know he's been recruited, but I talked to him last week. He's got some group of fives that have been talking to him. He said he didn't have any power fives yet, but he has a group of fives that have offered him. So I don't know if any of the HBCUs in the area have reached out to him, but I think they definitely should be reaching out to him. I definitely think they should be reaching out to him and some of the others.
Yeah, I think Dion. I had a debate with a coach here just recently, because here's the thing. My thought process. The question I asked you with this: if with Dion now doing what he's done at Jackson State in such a short period of time, and him talking about, his biggest speech has been, one of his biggest speeches have been HBCU, 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 HBCU. Kids can do it here. If he leaves and goes to a Power 5, does that hurt? Would people look at that with a little bit of hypocrisy? Would it hurt his JSU legacy?
It's going to depend to me on how long it is before that happens, or before that would happen. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. He's going to be the highest paid coach in the SWAC, and probably one of the highest paid. I don't know what the pay scale is throughout 1AA. He'll probably be one of the highest paid in 1AA when it comes down to it. But they still can't, like you said earlier, the resources at some of the other schools are so much more than here. You can't fault it if someone drops him a $6 million to $9 million, offer the coach team not going to take it. I mean, it's still a business. So I think his legacy would be built on how long he's here, how much success he has over the course of the length of that time. Of course, if it happened right now, it would seem a little hypocritical, and it would put some stain on put some kill the momentum of his legacy some. But
because here's the thing. Let's not try to trick
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. And I hope that I'm wrong, but I think the absolute longest Deion stays at Jackson State is 3 years. And that's because Shedeur Sanders, after the third year, could go to the NFL draft.
Well, you're saying 2 more years.
2 more years. Now,
well,
but here's the thing.
That'll be 4 and all.
It'll be 3. It'll be 3 total because after his junior year, if he's good enough, he can bypass his senior year and go to the league.
This was Deion's second year here. If you count the spring season, this was his second season here. So
yeah, I don't count the spring season. I count this year. I mean, I count it, but I don't count it because his son. If my thing is this, if he leaves, if he stays after his son has gone, that's special. If he leaves after next year, and with the transfer portal, he would take his son with him.
Definitely.
And his son probably would start wherever he goes because let's not make no mistake. He's doing a lot of this for his son. And it's okay. Here's the thing. I want to make this very clear. I'm not mad at him. People have been doing that for years. That's not something that's new. It's not something that's necessarily wrong. His son is special. His son's a very good quarterback, especially at this level. I think, and talking to some guys who's on the NFL level, they said that he does have a chance to be an NFL quarterback. How soon he would, he got it at Florida, like he was signed with Florida Atlantic, we won't ever know. But let's face it, he did have a great year this year.
He did have a great year. And he's got more notoriety playing at Jackson this year than he would have gotten at Florida Atlantic. He's probably going to be in a better situation to be drafted here at Jackson State than he would have at Florida Atlantic.
I agree with you. And so if he leaves after next year, in my opinion, you have to question, you begin to question not what he's accomplished, because he did what he said he was going to do, but as far as the HBCU and the commitment to this and the commitment to that, then now it's like, no, that wasn't the case because you left after 2 years. But at the end of the day,
that's why I said the legacy, how much hypocrisy there seems to be in what he did is all going to depend on his longevity here. But it's how long he is here before that move happens. But let's not fool ourselves. If he's successful, if he continues to be successful, he will be moving on.
But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Shoes. And I get you. I get it. I know it's about money. I get that. The financial. Let's just face it. Let's not try to trick ourselves. But a guy like Deion Sanders is the perfect pioneer. He doesn't necessarily need the money. He could stay here for the rest of his life, and he would have plenty of money, can live any way he would like to, with all of his endorsements, with all of the things that he gets paid off the field, with everything. He could legitimately do something that no other person has ever done. Like, I believe Ashley Robinson, the AD at Jackson State, has made the greatest hire, arguably in the history, not only of Jackson State, but maybe the history of HBCUs as far as it comes to athletics. Would you agree with that or not?
The only thing probably comes close to it is Eddie Robinson and Grambling.
Eddie Robinson, Grambling. And then here's the thing, Eddie Robinson at Grambling,
assuming there's some longevity.
Assuming that right. Because when they hired Eddie Robinson at Grambling, they didn't know he was going to be the Eddie Robinson that we know today and love, the legend Eddie Robinson. So here's the thing. Now, here's the thing too. I got another flip side of the coin. The Deion Sanders, the Eddie Georges, the Hugh Jacksons, those hires now, because everybody is kind of trending now to the popular guy or the NFL guy or all of that. Does it hurt that the W.C. Gordons of the world, who had to grind it out, you know what I mean? Who nobody knew about, they gave a chance, and they as they say, as the kids say, got it from the mud, and they weren't a former NFL guy or a former big time college coach. Does it hurt that guy?
I mean, EB, I'm a firm believer of standing behind this statement. Life isn't fair. And does it hurt those guys? Well, yeah, some of them won't get an opportunity now that they would have gotten there. They're gonna have to go, they're gonna have to dip down to some of the other schools and try to work their way up, maybe try to get in as an assistant, then get a job. But the truth of the matter is, where HBCU football has been, those hires are evening the playing field to me. Those hires are somewhat evening the playing field because, yeah, you can get a guy that came up through the mud and do this. Hey, man, he's not gonna have the appeal for Deion. Let's not make him a fool ourselves. That team this year that Deion put together, he went out and got the right transfers. He had some good high school signings. He bought his son in, he bought his other son, but he went out and got a bunch of transfers that probably not many other HBCU coaches could have got to come to one. That many guys to come to one spot because that's because of the Deion appeal. Let's not fool ourselves now. This is, Jackson State does have the, it's a great blend. Jackson State's heritage and Deion's flair. But those guys are there because of Deion, his flair, his soul, and hopefully that's what others are hoping for with the Hugh Jacksons and the Eddie Georges. They can get into some households and they can get their hands on some transfers and the things like that might not have come for the guys that came up through the grassroots and grinded it out, because those guys just won't have that appeal. Problem. These guys have name value. These guys have name value. And in this world today, name value, hey, you the geeker. You know how much a geek means. You know how big of a thing a geek is. So the geek is the deal.
Let me ask you this. Here's a quote I want to read from Dabo Swinney, head coach from Clemson. This is what he's saying about recruiting all of a sudden. It's chaos right now. Tampering galore. Adults manipulating young men. Education is like the last thing now. When you hear that, what do you hear? I hear something too.
I hear sour grapes. Sour grapes. Okay. Sour grapes because, there are some guys now that are looking elsewhere that used to just fall in y'all laps. Now you got to work a little bit. Now some guys you might not get. Now some guys decide to try a different route that you would have liked to have had. And now it's a problem because you can't just walk in the door and the player, mom and dad bow at the altar of the great Dabo Swinney. That's sour grapes.
That's right. That's what it sounds like to me. I hear another take from a reporter here right in Mississippi. He says, glad the top recruit in the country is coming to JSU. I wish schools weren't allowed allowed to buy recruits with lucrative NLIs. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, they've been buying them with straight bag money. So what's the difference? At least nine's within the rules.
And that's what I don't understand. It's like, let's not fool ourselves. Every team in the SEC, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, they've been paying kids all along. So now, see, to me, and then see what happens is, I don't know if people like a Doug Gottlieb, who's saying like the guy made a mistake, and Dabo. See, when they make statements like this, and I'm not saying any one of them, anybody, because all three of them happen to be white guys who said it. I'm not saying that any one of them are racist. That's not my thought at all. But when you say stuff like that, it now, when you look at it from a Black perspective, it poses the question. It puts us in a defensive mode, like, what are you really saying? When it was all right for you in your school, it's cool. But now that the HBCUs are able to start to reap some of the benefits, you don't like it. Now it becomes murky waters.
We talked about this beforehand, and I'm gonna stay on there what I said to you. I don't, I'm not. You're right. First of all, I agree. You're right. It opens the door to murky the waters. Now, I personally don't think of it as being racist, as I think of it as being power blind. All of the big schools and certain people who support the big schools, they've all they want the circumstances to stay as they are. They are not ready to accept the change that the playing fields are evening just a little. That the other people have opportunities to go and do things. I told this Doug Gottlieb is one of those guys that's been preaching for years. We want the 16 in the NCAA tournament. And when he says 6 to 8 best teams, he's talking about he wants every Power 5, Power 16 that can even sniff the tournament to get in. He'd rather have a 16 and 12 Seton Hall than a doggone 26 and 5 Murray State. Because quote quote they're from a Power 5 conference, they've got to be better. So a lot of those guys, they are just power. They just are blinded by the power. I think they're blinded and just sold in their mind on might makes right. That might makes right, and they don't want to see. They don't like the idea of the lines being blurred and the lines closing, and they're gonna fight it with all they can. That's what they're gonna do. They just don't. They don't like it. And the fact that it so happened to be HBCU that was one of the first to be able to grab a 5-star, just opens the door for even more murkiness, because they're going to shoot their shots at it,
Right. Well, again, it's hats off to Jackson State and Coach Prime. They pulled off something historic. I mean, it will go down in history. I know, unfortunately, it's already reports of the NCAA is going to be taking a real hard look at the deal, the supposed or NIL deal, because it's from Barstool Sports. Dion supposedly works there, owns it, or whatever. And he's got some connection with it, and so there are going to be some. They're gonna check into it. But I know, knowing Coach Prime and Jackson State, I'm sure they did their homework before they got this commitment and worked it out. And
all I say is this: Ole Miss scored the #1 football recruiting class and beat Alabama twice. Suddenly they found themselves on probation. When you bite the power that bees hand in this country, they come get you. They come after you. So he got to be careful. He got to be careful.
You got
But
to make
hey,
sure you dot all your I's and cross all your
all
T's.
your T's,
Where
because
are
hey,
my live chatters at, man? I don't see any live chatters. I'm just shocked. Please jump on, ask questions as we get ready to jump in. Shoes, let's talk about the world of hoops here in Mississippi. Uh, I know right now. Let me give a shout out to first. You get these calls from sometimes kids reach out to you, be like, and you hear parents, they kind of reach out, be like, man, you ain't mentioned such and such, different things. But I wanted to shout out Cam Brent and his Jackson Prep team. They're playing really well right now in the MAIS. I think they've only lost maybe one game. Cam, son of Wayne Brent, a senior who has led the Patriots, has been starting at least since he's been a sophomore, maybe a freshman. Uh, has the school record, 43 points in a game last year with 12 threes. Doing a really good job. Recently just got an offer to Holmes Junior College. And so we wanted to shout out the Patriots. I mean, I don't know if it's not the Patriots, but Jackson Prep. They've been doing really well. I know that they've been having a pretty good season so far in MAIS. Some other notables in MAIS, obviously, and we're going to talk about this a little later about Josh Hubbard, but then Harrison Alexander, 6'5", 6'6" wing, who's also a junior on that team at MRA, they're no question the king of the private school right now on the boys' side. You got Park Lane with Jacob Gazzo, that's doing really well as well. Anybody else, Shoes, or anything you want to comment about the private school?
I expect Greenville Christian now that they got their guys back. They took a lump to MRA last week, but there were some circumstances leading to the game. They, on a road game in MRA, they probably weren't going to win it anyway. But I think some of the circumstances from a couple of nights before leading up, they might have played a little better. But I definitely think they're going to be a factor in the race. They're going to probably win 3A, be favored to win 3A again, and be a really strong team in the MAS. And Heritage over in Columbus, I think they're poised to be pretty good this year also. There's Academy over in Columbus. I think they're poised to be pretty good again also.
And those of you out here listening, if you have any private schools, any players, feel free to put it in the chat and let us know so we can talk about it. I want to talk about moving right along to probably arguably you can argue the hottest team in Jackson right now in JPS, and they've beaten every team in JPS. And I got to talk about this. My guy Jarrell JJ Washington has the Murrah Mustangs 11-2 right now. They are playing really, really well. They've beaten Provine, Callaway, and Lanier. Talk to me, Shoes. Talk to me about my guy
and Forest Hill and Jim Hill.
And Forest Hill and Jim Hill. They pulled off. They've beaten everybody.
And I think they play. I think they played Wakefield already also. So I think they beaten everybody.
Right. And the thing is that they've been led by senior guard Avon Johnson, who's having a phenomenal senior year. He's already put up 52. He's averaging the high 20s. He's rebounding the basketball, being a tremendous leader. And, after they lost all the players that they lost last year, people thought that Murrah was going to be, they didn't know how good they were going to be. And they have proven that they can win the close game. And they're only a few points off, really, from being undefeated. I know Yazoo City beat them, and I don't know who else beat them.
They lost the first game of the season to Brandon.
They lost to Brandon, right? And that was a winnable game.
Which is one of the top teams in the state also. So yeah, they've really been had a great early season. I got a kudos off to Jarrell, to JJ. He's got him playing really well. He's getting great play out of his underclass backcourt.
Yes.
Give me their names, GB. I know the names. I don't have my stuff right in front of me.
Corterius Scott and Javion Cooper.
Yeah, Javion Cooper. He's getting great play out of the two of them, sharing the ball in the backcourt. He's got a lot of other guys playing hard, playing their roles. But the showstopper has been Avon. He's really, I love Avon's talent. When we talked about Avon when he was a sophomore, we all said he had a great, talent wise. He looked like he could be a big time player. He showed some signs last year. He actually had a really good season last year, averaged about 17 a game, I think. And but the team last year kind of was a little just didn't seem all the pieces didn't seem to fit all the time. So you couldn't see it. You wasn't sure what was going on. I've watched him at times in AU ball and other times that he just seemed antsy. He played in too big a hurry. He just he needed to slow the game down, slow down, let the game come to him a little more. And to his credit, man, he's made a big jump this year. He's pacing himself. He's picking his spots. He's been almost unstoppable so far in the early season. He's having a great season.
Yes, he is. Yeah,
Yeah.
he definitely is. And Corterius Scott right now, I was talking to JJ the other day. He says in this last couple weeks, he's been averaging about 22, 23 points a game. He does have a Mississippi Valley State offer, and he's only a junior, and he's a under he's a under the radar guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, for the
He's
most
playing
part.
really well. He is playing really well.
Yeah, I think that after this year, people will definitely get to see, and see who he is and recognize who he is, and hats off to the Jackson State commit, Avon Johnson. I tell you, team, I want to throw in the race for the 4A. Initially when we talked about 4A, initially it was no doubt. We said Raymond was going to run away with it. Well, you guys said it. I didn't say it. I didn't know. But I didn't disagree either because I didn't know. And then, Lanier has come on. We've seen him with Mark Drone that, has obviously put Lanier in the conversation. But I'm going to tell you another team. I went to the game the other day. I saw Tupelo and Gentry play at Gentry. And I'm telling you this, the Gentry Rams, they were 13-1. I don't know if they beat Olive Branch or lost to them.
They lost Olive Branch again last night. They lost Olive Branch, again Tuesday night. So now they're 17 and 15 and 2.
So they whatever they are in 2, and both of their losses have been to Olive Branch. Gentry Rams, I'm saying it now, are one of the teams to beat in 4A. They are the real deal. They got a bunch of football players, athletes who they ain't got no size really. They got an offensive lineman playing center, but they got a bunch of hungry dudes that are playing hard. And if they win that district and they play at home, you got to play at Gentry. It's going to be hard to come out there with a win.
I talked to the head coach for Gentry about a week ago. I had already peeped that they were having a great season. They've been in my rankings for now for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. He called me and I said, you might not have paid attention. I already got you in the rankings. He sent me some film on them. I've been watching the film. They are very good. Like you say, they don't have that standout player. They've got a bunch of dogs and a bunch of guys that can hit shots, rebound, run, jump. But that is prototypical Gentry for the last 10 years. For the last 6, 7 years. Since Chico, the head coach of Chico Potts, since Chico got there, that's been them. They've been a doggish, bulldogish, scrambling, hustling team. They've been good. They made a number of trips to Jackson. They haven't been able to get a state championship yet. But man, they've been right there. They were a little off last year, pandemic, a couple of guys that left, but they've been a contender. So it didn't surprise me to see them, really surprised me to see them kind of rise back up and get back in contender status. But they are man, they are that team there is they very well could be the best, the team in the North to beat. They're in the district with Yazoo City, but
Oh,
yeah, they're in the same region with Yazoo City and Greenwood. That's a competitive region. That's a competitive region. Greenwood got some of those kids that went over to the other streets and a couple other places back. They've been good this year. They've taken a couple of lumps to Starkville, but a lot of folks have. But they are playing well also. So that is a very competitive and strong region, you know. But right now, Gentry does seem to be the class of that region at this point. With region play not having started yet. But like you said, we just talked about Yazoo City. We mentioned them when we were talking about Murrah. They got a big win in Murrah over Murrah. They've taken a few losses, and not, at times the lack of size catches up with Yazoo. They just don't have any size. So it does catch up with them at times. But if you are not, like they struggled against Callaway because of Callaway's size, but we all know Murrah is not really that big. So they were able to kind of maneuver against Murrah. And it just goes back to show what we say a lot of times, those of us been around the game a lot. Basketball is about matchups. It's about the matchups.
Speaking of that Murrah Callaway game, I think, Murrah, I think they won by 73-70 in overtime. I thought it was very interesting. Vaughn Johnson had a monster game, 32 points, 14 rebounds, 7 blocks that I was told. But I thought it was interesting that they held Javion Hunt to 12 points. I thought that was like, that was, and I thought it was twofold. The fact that Callaway got into overtime with Javion only scoring 12 points. You can look at that as a positive, as well.
I mean, it could be a situation where they were keying on it, and he was mature enough to share the ball and find the open men and take advantage of what the defense was giving them. I wasn't there. I was there that night, but it's different ways to look at it. Like I say, if he only had 12, I'd be curious now how many assists he had that night. Javion had that night, because it's definitely a big, interesting look to see that they were able to get the game in overtime and play so close and have such win with him not scoring that much. But with the ball being in his hands predominantly most of the time, it's not hard to run two other guys, take it out of his hands and things like that. And but the thing for me that I don't, like I said, I wasn't there. The thing for me that makes me think happened there is hopefully, like I say, Javion maturing as a point guard, as a player, was able to help to use his teammates much better.
Who right now? We don't have our down south guy on, but it looks like just shifting down on the coast. Looks like Biloxi just had another big win. They're 13-1 right now, and it seems like Durand Parish.
I saw them play 2 Saturdays ago. They're playing really well. They're not really big either. 6'4" and 5. But they got a strong core guards. Durand Parish, one of the top juniors in the state. He can score the ball. He can handle it. They got I can't think of his first name, but the Hart kid, who's a really good shooter on the wing. They've got a couple other guards that can put the ball in the hole. They're playing really well. Steve Wyndham is one of the top coaches in the state. Every year his teams are. They're well organized. They're disciplined. They play great ball. He's gonna put his pieces together. And right now they seem to be, right now they're playing the best of anyone on the coast. Harrison Central, Harrison Central lost 2 in a row, but they lost those 2 in a row without their 2 best players.
Who was that? Fat did play?
Sam Murray was out when they lost to Pascagoula. Then they turned around and lost. Who beat them next? They lost another one the next night, a couple of nights later. Sam Murray and Fat Boy were out.
Oh, yeah.
They lost a game out of state before that. And they had been playing really well. But when they lost Sam, and then they lost Fat Boy also, without those 2, there are a bunch of, who is that on the court? guys right now.
Right.
So,
Who? Y'all, Harrison, who?
hmm?
Let me ask you, Shoes, who's right now your number one team?
Right now, I got Starkville. They've been number one the last 2 to 3 weeks since Meridian got beat at Northwest Rankin. They ascended to number one, and they lost the early game to Meridian. That Meridian by like 3 points, 2 or 3 points. They turned around the very next night and manhandled Grace Baptist off the coast, and they've been on a roll ever since. They 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 manhandled Northwest Rankin at earlier before that Northwest Rankin beat Meridian. They beat Holmes County a couple times pretty good. They beat Greenwood.
They beat
Uh,
Lanier.
beat Lanier. Yeah, they beat Lanier. They've been they. I didn't think they would be that good this year. I thought they'd be good, solid. They'd hang around the mid to lower part of the rankings. I didn't expect them to be this good, but they are right now probably playing the best in the state. Meridian is good also. They lost. They took that loss to Norwich Rank, who I also knew was be competitive this year. I'm not gonna sit and say I thought they were going to be as good as they turned out to be. But I knew with the regions changing, I thought they would probably win that region and be a team that could be dangerous in the playoffs, Northwest Rankin. But
Mhm.
they've really turned into a contender. They
Who's
really
in
have.
that who's in that region?
Pearl, Terry, and Warren Central.
And did I see right that they beat Callaway the other night?
Yeah, they beat Callaway the other night with two starters out.
Wow. That's big time.
Callaway, Callaway was without Dylan Redmond, but they had two starters out, and they still won. They won double figures.
So Callaway was without Dylan.
Dylan,
Okay.
he got
But
hurt in the Lord game.
Northwest Rankin was without two starters as well.
Lindsay was one of them.
Oh, okay. So that is a big victory.
Yeah,
So
that was
would
good. They've
you
been very
say,
good.
would you say right now, would you say the state is still wide open in every class?
I think so. I definitely think. I think 3A is bunched up. Got a bunch of good teams. St. Andrews is playing well. St. Patrick moved up to 2A. They're strong. Boonville is playing exceptionally well up north. Um, North Panola is playing really well. So there's a really good group of 3As. 4A, you got Gentry, um, Lanier, Yazoo City, Raymond. I'm not going to discount some of the other guys, like Talkin and New Albany and Pontotoc, South Pontotoc. They're all, you know if they're who's gonna really put it together. 5A, 5A, nobody in 5A taking off yet. 5A is a bunch of teams kind of pedaling along. Nobody's looked great, but a bunch of them have potential. Forest Hill, I think they got back to 500 last night, but they've been playing some of the best ball out of the 4A group right now lately. They just had a really tough schedule, played a bunch of teams, a bunch of tough teams. Meridian has Central on the road. They've taken some tough losses, but they've got some good wins. Pascagoula came up here. You got Callaway. They got talent. Just don't know that region is going to be fire with Forest Hill, Callaway, Jim Hill, Provine, and Vicksburg. It's all about who gets hot at the right time in that region. Up north, New Hope and Columbus have shown that they're going to be tough out, really tough outs in 5A. I know the two of them. Tillo has been competitive, played pretty well up there. You don't want to discount them. Down south, um, down south, Florence is rolling along at like 12 and 13-1. Wayne County is like 9-2. Well, I think they were 9-2 now.
Let's talk about Florence. Your man DC every year, you got to give him credit. He does a phenomenal job. And if you want to go score some baskets on the wing, and let's just face it, kids look for different places sometimes. You need to go move to wherever Florence is, because if you a guard, he gonna let you go.
Yeah,
He
You gonna
gonna
let his
go in
guard
there.
play? You gonna let him play? Actually, Jalen McNair, the big kid, is playing really well for him this year. Also,
Do
he's
you
giving them a really good presence inside, rebounding the ball, getting up and down the floor, scoring it. You know, he had Carter. Carter, what's Carter's last name?
Mullins, Carter Mullins?
Carter Mullen transfer out there. You know, with Devin Carter leaving last year, he had that scoring role wide open. Carter stepped right in. He's been he's been filling it up for him. Between him and Jalen, they're giving him quite the 1-2 punch. You know, I think he has a really good chance to get to Jackson this year. You know, from the South, like I said, you know, down south isn't as deep as up north. He's playing well. Wayne County's been solid. Gotta consider Picayune. Never count out Hattiesburg. Ernie Watson. I don't care what their record is.
Ernie Watson.
Ernie Watson. Never count them out. I don't care what their record is. Lord,
And you
never
know
count them
what?
out.
Speaking of Ernie Watson, you know, we were on a Twitter space the other day, and he's such a veteran coach. He tries to, I mean, he tries to sell me like, boy, it's gonna be tough for him to win it. Like I said, Coach Watson, you're in Jackson every year, and he's trying to sell me how, well, this year he won't be. He's going to be watching. He's really young, or this, that, and the other. And so he's really funny on how he tries to Lou Holtz me. But here's a question I just got, Shoes, a statement. They said the best district in the state has Brandon, Meridian, Petal, and Oak Grove. One is not going to make the playoffs. Who do you think is going to be?
Probably Oak Grove. They're down this year. They haven't been strong so far in the early season. They're a little down. One of their best players, the kid that should have been one of their best players this year, hurt his knee during the summer. Um, let me tell you exactly what the kid's name is. Um, the kid, he hurt his knee. And that's really been hurting them. So they've been not as good so far this season. I think Petal's been really good. Petal's up there in the top 10 in the rankings also. They're actually the one team to beat Biloxi. Biloxi went there like the second or third game of the season. Biloxi led most of the game. But Petal, they had just gotten their football players. They led most of the game, and then Petal, they got them late. You know, Petal has the guard. There's a guard over there, Jamar Jenkins, 5'11" point guard, combo guard, has been having a really good season. You know, so I think they're going to probably be able to manage that third spot out of it. Well, you know, I won't say third. I'm not going. They should be able to make that top three. You know, you got Brandon and Meridian, who are both tough. But you know, that is a tough district. But I mean, you got down south, you got Biloxi, Harrison Central, Gulfport, and Hancock in the district. So that's another tough one. I just told you
And
what we
then
got in 4A. I just told you what we got in 5A with Forest Hill, Provine, Callaway,
Vicksburg.
and Vicksburg.
Who do you got not making it? Give me a prediction. Who doesn't make it
Out of what?
out of Vicksburg? Forest Hill, Jim Hill, Callaway, and Forest Hill.
Um, Two that don't make it. Vicksburg and Callaway.
That's a major statement coming from you, Lavelle Shoes Johnson. You heard it here first. I mean, you know what?
I'm just gonna throw it out there. I just don't know.
If,
They don't seem like they can get it together, and I don't know if they can.
hey, you know what? They got, you know, here's the deal. They got an over and under on their Shoes. Who falls asleep first, Shoes or me, or the clown EV? And then they said, Cordarius says, my money on EV. Eddie Young says, why they got his mouth open like the EV is an embarrassing human. You know, Eddie Young tries to find a way, man. I mean, easy one. I sent you a link. You could easily come
Why he
on, but
sitting there? Yeah, why he sitting up there? Why is he on the message board? He's supposed to be on the show.
you know what? It's a boys' show today, and so
I
he's
think he
probably
had
gonna.
games tonight. I think he had his league tonight too,
Yeah, he
though.
had his
I
league
think he got his
today,
league tonight.
and then he also, Eddie just got. He's up for Big Head of the Year award, and so even though it was National Signing Day, for all the football, I think that he had to do some interviews and stuff because I think he's going to be going to Atlanta for the national competition here real soon. So he just he had to do some stuff like that as well. So his head, sometimes on his when he gets on here live, his head doesn't fit in the camera, and so he has. So I don't know if he got some swelling or not going on right now, but he probably just got to get his head to shrink a little bit. He's the only person I know got a shrinker, a head shrinker. But that's big.
But
That's big
I just
shoes.
don't know if they can get it. Jim Hill is playing well. I think far as Hill is playing, is going to be. They look like they're going to be the really tough in that region. And I'm saying Callaway, but I think it's between Callaway and Provine to me, between the ones that won't get out, but other than Vicksburg. It's between Callaway and Provine. I mean,
So
they could still get out. It's between Callaway and Provine. I mean, I really think Jim Hill. I got Jim Hill and Forest Hill right now. As the two that I think get out for sure.
Are gonna make it. Wow, that's big because you talk about Callaway is Callaway has been, you could arguably talk about Callaway has been Jackson's hope.
They've been the class. They've been the class of JPS for the last 8, 9, 10 years.
Right. And so now you're talking about them not even making the playoffs. Wow. How big, let me ask you this. And just to, let's go to the elephant in the room. Well, the elephant is not in the room. Eddie's not on here. So it's not the elephant in the room. I mean, elephant, if he was on here, he would be the elephant in the room, but he's not here. So let's just go to things that people, are saying out loud. How big does Dave Sanders' departure from Callaway hurt Callaway?
Well, it's big because he definitely put his stamp on the program. The kids, the kids fed off of him. The system really fit the kids. He understood how to get the most out of them. But I also think there's been a little bit of a drop off in the talent. They definitely have a strong 3 or 4 that should be better than it's been. But at the same time, they're not as deep as they've been, and some of the pieces don't quite fit together as good as they have in the past. I think Redmond's having it's slowly started having a really good season. He's really coming on, and Javion has had some big games, but the supporting cast other than them has been very, up and down. It's been very up and down. They're counting on a couple of really young kids. The freshman is over there, and he was thrust into a role that he wasn't expecting when they didn't get George Marshall eligible over there, and he had to go back to Forest Hill. And a lot of what they were expecting to have this year was built around the thought they would have Javion and George in that backcourt together, similar to the backcourt they had last year, which would have really opened up, changed the roles of a lot of those guys. And they just, at this point, they haven't been able to totally figure it out, get all the pieces on the same page. They do have talent. They probably the most talented team in their region. Now, they're probably just on raw talent, the most talented team in their region.
Callaway. You're talking about Callaway.
They are the most talented. I'm not gonna bite, not go there. They are raw talent, the most talented team in their region. They got size, they got Javion, the freshman can play. They got Trey Taylor over there, who I think has, he reminds me a lot in some ways of Vaughn, in that you keep waiting to see him turn that corner, like we saying Vaughn has this year. he's talented. He's 6'5", long, bouncing, can shoot the three, but his game is not complete yet. It's not, well rounded yet. And and he can tend to be a little tougher and do a few more things. And so the pieces just aren't all there yet. Aren't coming together as well yet, which is why I'm hoping I threw that out there and it'll push the button. When I say they're not gonna make it, I'm hoping to push that button. It ain't the same as when Dave was there, though. By now he'd already be on my Twitter page going off.
Yeah, we know that you and Dave Sanders were best friends, and that was already he would have definitely been on there talking about it. But
Yeah,
hey, well, let me
he'd
ask you this.
already been at my throat.
Huh?
He'd already been at my throat.
Yeah. That's funny. Well, as we began to wrap up, shoes, we
I want to say this, Ev. We were talking about the different classes. I'd be amiss if I didn't mention, man, 6A this year, the 6A state tournament will be a war. This has to be the deepest year ever I've seen with teams that have a chance to be, quality teams in 6A. I mean, from Olive Branch, you got Olive Branch up north, Starkville and Tupelo, you in their region. You've got, I won't count out the Soda Central and South Haven. They're not bad teams. You can beat somebody. You come on down here. You got Clinton. You got Clinton and Murr in their region. Madison Central is a team that still has the potential to beat someone. You go over there where we just got through talking about Brandon Meridian and Pelham. You got with Northwest Rankin rising up. You got to account for them. You go down on the coast, you got Pascagoula over there that even though they've been up and down, they have talent. They could get it together. You got the other region with Gulfport, Biloxi, and Harrison Central. Man, 6A is just so deep this year. And usually there are a few 5As that you figure are as good as or better than a bunch of the 6As. But this year, there is a gap between 6A and 5A quality. Up to this point, there has been. I mean, because we still kind of feel like Holmes County, with the struggles they've had, is still possibly the best team in 6A and 5A. And the people that are doing the class rankings still have them sitting up there at the top of it, And I can't argue with that because since they got their football players, they played better. They're still in the process of some things out, and they they probably look like a team that could roll. But like I said, Forest Hill is playing really well. Florence is playing really well. Callaway is one of the most talented teams. But all of those teams we're talking about, other than Florence and Florence, have 7 losses already. 5 to 6 losses already. So it's just a gap. Seems to be a big gap between the quality of teams, between the depth and quality in 6A and the depth and quality in 5A this year. But I expect the 6A state tournament from first round on to be war. It's gonna be some tough and really good matchups in the 6A state tournament.
Before we go into our last gig, I want to ask this question. There's 2 questions. Is MRA the best team in the state, private or public school?
No, I don't think so. They're very good. I mean, they've already been beaten by Biloxi. Biloxi handled them, but really handled them really well that day down there.
Would you consider them a top 5 team in the state, private, public?
Oh, Deshaun dressed out tonight. Oh, when did he play? But they have the potential to be. I'll go as far as saying this. I think they can play with anyone in the state.
Okay.
I think they can play with anyone in the state. Right now, I don't know who's 1 through 5 in the state. There's so many. 1 through probably 11 in the state this year. It's so bunched up and topsy-turvy from week to week because you get that 1 upset, 2 upsets here. I mean, like a team like Olive Branch, they beat Gentry twice, they beaten Holmes, they beaten Forest Hill. They let Provine come up there and beat them. That's their one loss. Well, they got one up in Tennessee also. But then they come back behind that Provine loss and play strong. So, and that teams are allowed a fagu, a football. Teams, these are still 15 to 17, sometimes 18-year-old kids. They don't read their own clippings. They'll have a football. There's Olive Branches. I mean, Tupelo, you went to Tupelo game. Tupelo's been to Clinton, they've been to Gentry and gotten beat, but other than that, they have been very good. Meridian has been good. Starkville has been good. Um, Brandon has been really good. It's a MRA has been really good. It's a slew. Biloxi. We talked about Biloxi. And the Central has been really good until they lost their two players. They had to play without their two best players. They get them back. You got to put them in. I don't know who's the best 5 teams in the state, but I do think MRA can play with anyone in the state. I don't think. I think if you put them in the 6A ranks, they would be a contender.
Well, we're going to have Josh Hubbard on the show here in his, and possibly probably his father here in the near future. But I want to make this statement early. I want to we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I want to just pose a question. Me and you talked about this briefly. It's clear that Chris Jackson and now Mahmoud Abdul Rauf was known as the GOAT, the greatest to ever come out of Mississippi. You can't argue with what Josh Hubbard has done in the state of Mississippi, dropping 47 as a freshman, 46, 47, one of the two, against Gulfport, a 6A team. Matter of fact, Chris Jackson's old team. With his body of work, obviously we didn't know Chris Jackson would be Chris Jackson. Is it possible that we could be looking at the next GOAT of Mississippi in Josh Hubbard?
Anything's possible. With a few, you got a whole nother year. You got to see, right now with the opportunities these guys have in the summer to go out and play and build a resume and build a portfolio. I won't say that that's an outlandish statement. I'm not ready to put him up there yet. I'm not. I still think I don't think he is yet. But it's not an outlandish conversation or statement. He's been really good. I think the one thing that continues to make people and that people are going to use against him is that he plays in the MAISA, whatever it is, MAIS. Because he's not going to, because naturally they're going to have a lot of nights where they're just head and shoulders better than a lot of people. There'll always be the kind of elephant in the room when it comes to him. But we also have to acknowledge what he's done when he's had his opportunities against high level teams, and public school teams. I'm not gonna say it's an outlandish statement or outlandish question. With the time he has left and the opportunities he has left, very well could, blow some things out the water. I wouldn't be ready to put him there yet, but it's a very interesting thought, very interesting thought pattern.
Well, we've come to the end, and we just want to give, as we do every week, our last geek of the night. And go ahead, Shoes, and I'll close us out.
All right. Well, we're coming up on the holiday season, and then on into January. Of course, things really heat up now. We got the Christmas Classics season coming up. They got events. My usual 3 that I try to make here: JPS, Hattiesburg, Gulfport. There's also this weekend they got Jackie Laird in Biloxi. They also have a big one this weekend up in Columbus. Forest Hill and Starkville are supposed to play up there this weekend. And then, of course, we roll over into January, what I call Classic Month, because you just have Classic after Classic in January, from from the Rumble in the South to the Hotbed to the Tangle in the Trail to the Hoops Fest. It's just a plethora of classics. So if you haven't gotten your full, if you just kind of getting going, getting your engines going for basketball, it's going to really take off, guys. So I'm going to be all over the place. I love this time of year, but it's going to be a lot of really really good ball played over the next month and a half, setting the stage for the playoffs. And I'm just really, like I just said, with the circumstances in 6A and 5A and 4A and 3A, I'm really, really just geeked to see how these things work out. Who stands up, who stands tall as the season goes on.
Well, yeah, that is true. A lot of basketball yet to be that has been played, but a lot of that has yet to be played. And so, again, to all the hoopers out there, I encourage you get in the gym. In order to be great, you have to get in the gym, and you got to get in the gym after practice. You're gonna have to find time. Be coachable. Don't question your coach. Just do what they tell you to do. If you feel like you can do some things that your coach is telling you can't do, then show them through the work. Show them through, practice. Talk to your coach one-on-one after practice. Don't just always question. We need to become. We got to teach our kids in this era to be more coachable and stop questioning everything somebody who has done it before you, longer than you, has done. So for Shoes Johnson and Coach EV, aka EV the Geeker, we have enjoyed you this evening. Thank you. And we will say good evening, good night, and GOG.